So here we are. I wanted to make a wee video about my EG5 Civic, which has slowly turned into a race car. I was inspired by Motorspirit, his channel, and his awesome EG6, which is super clean. This isn't half the car his is, but hey, it's fun nonetheless. But yeah, inspired by him, so I thought, hell, I'm gonna make a couple of videos, if for nothing more than you know, timekeeping on progress that I make on this. So I thought this video would just be a bit of an overview of the car, essentially. So basically this is my EG5 Civic. Brought this coming up on a year probably. Essentially I brought it as just a road car with a B18CR conversion, and said to myself, okay cool, it's road legal, I live close to the racetrack, I'll drive it to the track on, you know, some weekends for some club days, then I'll be able to drive it home, and occasionally I can take it for a rip over the hill, whatever. That lasted all of 2 or 3 weeks. Then I started stripping it down and dedicating it to being a race car. I've had it out, only had it out maybe 4 times since I've had it. I keep either breaking things or changing them. And by breaking things I mean the gearbox, and I'll get into that shortly. But yeah, basically what I've done is we've put a full cage in it. Kept it very basic. Weight is key here, keeping it light as possible. But yeah, so I haven't touched this for the best part of probably 4 or 5 months. I had a wedding, had a honeymoon, blah blah blah, all of that. But now it's time to rip back into it. So New Year's, had a fella come around and we rewired the whole car. As you can see, it's all rewired, just keeping just the most essential wiring needed to make the car run. It's obviously a complete mess at the moment, but it's there. And when I get the aluminium dash, which I'll hopefully get bent up this week in, I can read all the switch panel, you know, pin all the wires back, get them all covered up, and obviously just get this all tidied up and looking nice. So the interior is pretty basic. Takata harnesses there, which are expired now, so I need to get new harnesses. Once the aluminium dash is in, I've got a wee diffy screen here with the progressive shift lights, which is the main reason I got this. Got some diffy gauges over here, which were previously in the car. Obviously oil temp, oil pressure, water temp, as you do. They'll go back in. God, this garage is a bloody mess. Need to clean it up. Like I say, I haven't been in here for months. Got some new Hasport mounts to go in the engine bay. So here the engine is, it's a B18CR out of a Type R Integra, I believe, originally. Stock motor, other than, you know, intake, exhaust, headers. Got this mount on here, as you can see, nice new mount, nice and solid. A keen eye will notice there's a lack of a gearbox in here. So the gearbox story, basically the car obviously originally came with a box in it with a short gear kit. Can't think of the Gear X short gear kit, which was really cool. I had an offer come up for another box with a short gear kit and a nice aftermarket LSD and you know, slightly better box. So I picked that box up. Now that box is buggered right from the beginning. It crunched, it wouldn't shift. I took it out again, I took it back to the guy, he got his mate to fix it, put it back in, same deal. Took it back out, took it back to him, put it back in, same deal again. I believe I took it out again one last time and took it to a shop this time instead of his mate, and his mate had put in basically the synchros were in backwards. He'd tried grinding teeth down and angling them on the gears. It was absolute dog's breakfast. Anyway, long story short, got my money back for that box. Same time I got money back for that, a new box, an S4C case popped up with a Albans dog kit in it, basically dog gear kit, and I've had that out twice, and that thing wasn't brand new. Started popping out of gear, and it started not going into gear in fourth, I think it was, third and fourth, either or. Anyway, so I bit the bullet. I had to pull that box out, took it down to the rebuilders, and we found that it needs new dog rings, third, fourth, and a new slider. So I've just ordered those from Albans, which aren't bloody cheap, and they're on their way. They're actually stuck in customs, which is tacked on another 20% of the already expensive parts. So hopefully I'll get that back shortly, probably next week maybe if I'm lucky. But yeah, that's the gearbox. Dog box is absolutely phenomenal to drive though. I mean, the shifts are so quick, and if I plan on, you know, keeping these videos going, so obviously I'll get some in-car videos and some progress of the car as we go, because it's a wee there's a bit to do before it goes back to the track. So I always like to change things. This is completely DIY. Probably just side note, don't do what I do, but hey, I love it, I have fun. Flywheel's a Toda flywheel. Just got it covered up there. Basically I blew a CV boot off, and it sprayed grease absolutely everywhere through the engine bay. So I thought while I was waiting for the box, you know, I just covered that up, and I was water blasting, that's why it's all covered up. And a 5-putt clutch and pressure plate. So that's essentially the motor, and you just heard a boring story about the gearbox. Some other stuff. The guards, so as you can see I've cut the guards there, and I've added a wee diverter plate in this side here. So the idea is basically this guard isn't actually fixed on, by the way, in case you're wondering why it's all hoary around there. Diverter plate here to essentially get air, you know, turbulent air out of the wheel well and out the side here, and not into the front of the door or anywhere else. So it's the idea behind that. The other side's actually still together, so might give you a better idea of that. There's brackets that I made up, just if you can see them up in here, which they just pull the guard out, as well as I'm running 15x8s with it's about a 20 offset, so the wheels sit out a bit more than the stock guards like. So I pulled them out a bit, as well as doing this. So far so good. Only running actually self-tapping screws at the moment. I've just got some riv nuts on the way to replace all of this. Side skirts I put on. Now these are, I've custom made these. I had these bent up myself, probably better in the light on the other side. They're basically a replica of PCI side skirts, other than this kick out here, which I've added in. The light, here we go. It's essentially just to divert air around the wheel, but it really needs a bit of an arch up here as well. Long story short, yeah, just bent up these side skirts, some brackets behind there, some nice hardware, and they're basically an exact copy of the ones that you pay $300, $400, $500 for, and they cost me, well, they cost me nothing at all. So that's those. It's running Lexan, no, not Lexan, polycarb windows on the front at the moment. Soon to go to the back as well. Got the polycarb sitting over the back there, so I can do the backs. Yeah, so as you can see, the back bumper's off, which I'll get to shortly. So I mentioned the wheels, 15x8s. Yeah, running Maxxis RC1 semi slicks at the moment. Picked them up cheap. They seem to be a really good tyre. After this, they'll probably end up with Probably Hancock's, I dare say. Pretty reputable, well used. What else we got? Fiberglass plug for the old sunroof. The old sunroof was about 15-ish kilos. And you know, it's all weight that's sitting at the top of the car, which you don't want. So it was, you know, an easy decision to grab a fiberglass plug and chuck that in. While I do remember too, all that wiring that came out of the car, given it was a full stock loom, this is it here. This is just so much unbelievably heavy, you know, wiring. I think there's 12 kilos of literally just, you know, shit that made the car run, which I just do not need. And we're just down to absolute bare basics now. I know I'm going back and forth a bit here, but anyway. One thing that always interests me is aero. And I did a lot of research. I like researching, so I made this. It's a front splitter out of plywood. These here are just basically just keep this here from flopping around at all, even though it's fairly stiff. As you can see on the track, ended up grinding down these fronts to quite a bit, but they're settled in now. Now anyway, this here bolts onto, on this side here you can see there's some brackets. This bolts straight onto the chassis with these brackets just here. They need a bit of a tidy up, but essentially they bolts onto the bottom of them. And the difference that this makes, or this made when I had it out, was absolutely night and day to the grip on the front. I could not believe how much faster and how much more planted I was in the corners with this on the front. Now I'm going to use race chrono and probably an external GPS and actually test some times and sector times to get a better idea of how much different this is making. But from the seat of your pants, this is phenomenal. It honestly, mate, I did not expect it to make much of a difference, and this made all of the difference in the world. It made so much difference as when I started pushing the car to its absolute limits of grip, the back just starts getting really, really squirrely. The front is just planted, but the back is really squirrely. So what I've gone and done is picked up this spoiler here, which I had custom made. It's basically, it's an E423 foil profile, if you will, aerodynamic profile, which I've literally just got the foil itself. I've obviously dummied up some end plates here, which I'll make out of some 2mm alley. I'll get my hands on some, and this here is going to sit off the back. Not a very good view, but off the back of the car here. Yesterday I started building up some brackets, just sort of bent these up here. There's some wee bits in here, these to screw into. So I started building these up as the mounting brackets. These here as well, which will weld onto here. Obviously these are oversized currently, as I'll cut them down to suit, but I'd rather have a bit more meat to play with. So rather than buy the old PCI, you know, wing brackets which end up mounting onto here, one, I'm doing this on a you know, backyard budget, but still correctly, and two, I just really enjoy making things. So this wing, what I'm going to do is build probably some 40 by 40 box section is going to come out of here behind the bumper, across here, and attach back to here, so it's mounted on the chassis, probably with a wee brace there. From there I can run 2 struts up here, and then 2 stabilising mounts back to here, so the wing will sit off the back here in free, clean air, in the attempt that that'll stabilise and keep the rear more planted. I think it's going to work great. Again, I'm just doing this and testing it fun. I'll split test everything, and I plan on putting the results up probably in a video. But yeah, that's basically an overview of the car. And I guess from here I'll just start filming bits and pieces which I do to the car to get it ready to go back on the track. There's basically a list over there on that whiteboard of some of the things that need to happen. Good old Frank the Beagle out there. This bumper here, brought aftermarket C-West style bumper. Just added this rubber, it's just a rubber stick-on strip, and this seals down to that splitter the whole way around, which pushes the air where I need to go, which is under it, which creates the suction down to the ground, which I think is why it made such a huge difference on the car. But yeah. Oh, might as well go to the brakes too, which you can see in there. So I've got Spoon twin block calipers. These are completely rebuilt. They came in quite the state when I got this car. The pads were worn out to nothing. The old discs, because they were worn out to nothing, had big gouges through them all. I bought this car sight unseen from the other end of the country and had it shipped here, so little did I know about some of the stuff. But yeah, Spoon twin block calipers, rebuilt them completely using rather than buying I think it's a $700 kit from Spoon to rebuild them, we ended up getting new pistons and matching them out of other cars. I think we used Type X Sylvia in one of them, and I think it was S2000 ones in the other. There's two different size pistons in there. Because they were all pitted and also new seals, we basically custom built the insides, and they ended up costing a lot, but still cheaper than the Spoon. But yeah, that's the brakes, that's the car. Hopefully I'll get the box back soon, the alley dash, start routing all the wires and making some real good inroads on this. I expect to hopefully have it back on the track in a month or so, and I guess I'll keep documenting it so far. But yeah, there we are, onwards.